bill.
I call the honourable member Megan Woods.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. I'm very pleased to take a call on this after I've just been speaking to 2 schools in my electorate that have been closed today by the Minister of Education to make way for charter schools in the network in Christchurch. This is a dark day for education in the city that I represent part of, and members opposite should be ashamed that they have sold out the education of Christchurch children for a vote cooked up over a cup of tea. This is the price of coalition, and today the children of Christchurch and the communities of Christchurch are paying the price of this coalition, and they are paying it dearly. Let's have a look at the problem with charter schools. Let's go through this and the very weak and feeble excuses that we've had put up by government members opposite of why charter schools are a good thing. My colleague Chris Hipkins has already gone through a number of our objections to this. The first of these, and perhaps one of our most fundamental of these, is that we do not believe that our education system should be run for profit. Let's be very clear here. We are talking about the use of public money, taxpayer money, being put into a system of schools that private organisations will be able to make profit from. This is not about the education of our children. This is not about improved educational outcomes. This is about the privatisation of New Zealand's education system, and this is about an educational agenda. We've had a range of excuses put up about why they are, and a number of crocodile's tears cried by members opposite about how this is about the ability to be innovative, to do truly innovative things and different things. Well, Mr Chairman, we heard from a number of schools that came before our committee time and time again and talked to us about the truly innovative things they were doing in their school. And I'd like to hear the Minister and the Chair take a call and tell us why it is that her government thinks that we need this legislation when we have heard from educational expert after educational expert that they are able to do the truly innovative things that they want to do. Only last week, with my colleagues Chris Hipkins and Carol Beaumont, we were at the very innovative and very excellent school in Mr O'Connor's electorate. We were at Tamaki College, and we were able to see the absolutely innovative work that this school was doing. This public school was able to do under the current legislation. They certainly didn't see the need for a charter school. They certainly did not see that need. And this is a school that is servicing a school population that is 98% Māori and Pacifica. And we were seeing some very special and some very good things going on there. And I would like to hear Mr O'Connor, a member that sat there and listened to submitter after submitter come before our committee and tell us that these weren't needed. There are a number of very good schools in this country and a number of excellent teachers who are doing amazing things in the name of the education of our children. And on this side of the House, we celebrate them. We don't denigrate them as the price of a coalition deal cooked up over a cup of tea. And that is what members opposite are willing to do. We also hear from members that this is all about educational achievement and about lifting the educational achievement of Māori children. Well, in the area I come from, in Christchurch, Ngāi Tahu gave us a very good submission about exactly what their thoughts were in relation to charter schools and the fact that they didn't see the need for charter schools and certainly didn't want them. So to hide behind that is something that members opposite actually need to get on their feet at this detailed stage of the legislation and justify. They need to tell us why it is they think it is okay to make profit out of our education system, why it is that we do not need qualified teachers, and why it is that we don't need to teach to a curriculum. because that is not something that anyone should be proud of. So when Ngāi Tahu looked at the issue of student achievement in their submission, Mr Chairman,
Megan Woods.
They told us that partnership schools, they were very clear, partnership schools will not address the real factors affecting low student achievement. And there's a strong correlation between lower educational achievement and childhood poverty. These are not issues this government is willing to address in any meaningful kind of way. Instead, what they're going to do is strip money out of the education system and turn it into a for-profit venture. But what I really want to dwell on, only hours, well, a matter of a couple of hours of learning the fate of Christchurch schools, is the way in which this government is using the children of Christchurch as guinea pigs. The justification that has been put up for the closure of many of these schools simply does not stack up. The government does not have solid demographic data to base this on. Nobody in Christchurch knows exactly what is happening to our populations, where people are and where they are likely to be. When we have the details of the census, we will know more. But today we saw 7 of our schools close before we even know that information. We saw a further 6 of our schools merge. We saw in my electorate Branston and Manning Intermediates closed, both schools which sit on the fringes of huge population growth. This is the southwest of Christchurch where people are moving to, and we are seeing subdivisions expanding, families moving in, and you don't actually need to be a genius to see that there's going to be a need for schools in this area. We've seen absolutely no consideration of the children. When you look at the member for Christchurch Central, the school in her electorate, Phillipstown School, that is going to merge with Woolston School. How it is that the children of this community are going to be served is beyond the comprehension of any of us on this side of the House, because it simply isn't going to be. These are communities that have been through enough, and we heard from submitters to us, we heard about how this is an exact take from the playbook of disaster capitalism. This is what happened in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. This is the kind of experimentation that was taken out, and this is what we are seeing from this government. We have no evidence that this is going to lift educational achievement in this country. The international evidence shows us that that simply is not the case. There is absolutely nothing to that. When the second reading, we had many examples bandied about, examples that simply do not stack up. International examples that don't bear the scrutiny of when put to the lens. This is not about raising educational achievement. This is about experimentation on a vulnerable group of children, and something that this government should be ashamed of. Tonight there are communities and parents and children and teachers whose lives have been dealt a further blow from this government, who are sitting there despite being assured by the Minister of Education that if they enrolled their child in a school that she would let them see out their education there and that they wouldn't close till the end of the 2014 educational year. Well, she has backed down on this problem. She lied to the communities of Christchurch, and she is now telling them that their schools will close in January 2014.
I think I know what the member's going to say. The member cannot infer the other member's lie. It's absolutely something that's not actually done in Parliament. Point of order, the Honourable Triple Matter.
Mr. Speaker, you can not say that someone lied to the House. Misleading the House is a breach of privilege and a breach of order. Sir, you can say that members lied to the public.
That's right. Well, I don't like that. Personally, I don't like that, because it means that members of Parliament are not telling the truth, and I don't think that's the sort of impression that we should be inferring from this House. And I would like the member to be careful in the way in which she couches her language. Public perception. I've dealt with the issue. New point of order.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, I was going to raise 2 points of order. That was certainly one of them. The second is one of scope. Because while it's an important issue, it is very, very far outside the scope of this bill to continue to talk about school closures in Christchurch.
Thank you for drawing that to my attention, and if the member could Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Miller.
Mr Speaker, the member was referring to matters raised in a submission to this bill by a Christchurch school. Mr Speaker, it must be within scope. It was a submission on this part of the bill by a Christchurch school.
In that case, it's totally permissible. I call the honourable member. Oh, a third point of order.
It's a further point of order, Mr Speaker.
Mr.
The standing orders and Speaker's rulings, as I'm sure Mr Woodhouse is well aware, make it very clear that it is out of order for any member to question the Chair's judgment on relevance. The Chair is the sole judge of relevance, and interrupting a member who's speaking to question the relevance of what they're saying is in fact out of order.
Well, it's 1-1, and I'm happy to continue the debate.
Mr Chairman, as I was saying, that we heard from Karen Harper-Royal, an international expert who travelled here from the United States to tell us of the experience of what happened in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. She spoke to this bill. And what is happening here is straight from the playbook. It is about experimentation. It is about just trying things out on vulnerable children and taking advantage of natural disasters to do educational experimentation. We think that is shameful. We don't think that is something that should be done to our children, and we do not think this is something they deserve. What is more, we think that our children in Christchurch, as they do all across New Zealand, actually deserve some certainty from the Minister, and this is not what they've received. They have lived through 9 months of certainty while those proposals have been live. This is what is not going to add to educational achievement of these young people. These are young people that have been left out in the cold by this government. There is absolutely no way that Labor can support this legislation. This is not what is about what is best in terms of educational outcome. This is not what this is about, political manoeuvrings by the national government to keep power.
I call the honourable member Tracy Martin.
Talofa, Mr Chair. Mr Chair, I have